Daily Ascent. I'm Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast that I always wish existed. A bite sized, on the ground spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life. Because sometimes that's all it takes, a small shift in what we choose to believe to make the day a little better and to make us a little more awake, alive, and ascending. So today I want to talk about something that I've wrestled with my whole life, caretaking. I mean, this is such a funny phrase because in essence it's so beautiful, but it's really, it gets a bad rap and I understand that too. So for me, like I love to help the people around me. I do. I love to help my inner circle, my power circle, like I like to call it. And honestly, I'm close with a lot of people. I got super blessed in the relationship category. And as it turns out, I'm very, very good at helping. It's one of my superpowers. And I don't think that caretaking necessarily needs to be a dirty word when it's done from the heart. It's just one of these things that we have to keep such an eye on if we struggle with overconsumption of anything. And I definitely am in that category. And so when it comes to caretaking, if I'm not careful, caretaking can slide into something else real quick and without my permission. And that's things like overhelping, overextending, which for me always leads to exhaustion and resentment. And, anything that we're overdoing, usually at its root, has some fear to it. And for me, this caretaking thing, it's always like fear of not doing enough, fear of being seen as selfish, and honestly, the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out of a moment. So recently, I spent 5 days watching my godkids, who I love so much. I was made to be a godmother. It's just the best thing that ever happened to me. And getting to spend time with them is really one of my favorite things in the whole world. I just want to gobble them up and I want to soak in every moment. And I see how fast time goes. And I get this really unadulterated time to get to be with them. And I just want to binge on it because that's how I'm made. And, in the past, when I've gone on these journeys with them and I've watched them for extended amount of time, I just come home totally wiped out and almost like hungover. Like I need a few days to get myself back and I lose time. And I'm like irritable and I'm just always left wondering why something I love has left me in this position of feeling just so drained. And so I am just always trying to do it better and always trying to do it differently. And I knew this was such a long, extended trip. So I was like, what can I do? And then I just put on my little therapist hat and I'm trained in this thing called dialectical behavior therapy, which is this like skills-based therapy. And so I decided to just take my own DBT medicine. And there's this skill called cope ahead. And effectively, it's what they use for athletes, whatever. It's this question you can ask yourself, how do I want to feel when this experience is over? Because I just have such a busy life and I didn't want to lose the time at the end of this beautiful trip. It just felt like, such an ugly veil on such a beautiful time. And so I asked myself that question and then I made this decision, right? I said, how do I want to feel when I get home from this trip? And my answer was like connected, calm, steady, full, right? And I come from trying to fill myself with a lot of things, right? With food, with alcohol, with drugs, with shopping, and so when I get to be in these authentic relationships, I really try to take it in because that's the nourishment and the nurturing that I know my soul needs. And so I had to work backwards on this one. And so what I did was really planned for my self-care. I planned workouts. I scheduled meetings with friends because it was in New York City and I live in Connecticut. So I have a lot of friends in New York City. I made a little dinner date with a friend. And I did this thing where I blocked off. And I'm telling you, like, this is how we learn a skill. I blocked off some shut door time so that I could just be with myself for a minute. These are older kids, so I mean, they'll open a door when it's shut, but they understand like they don't need me to be with them every single minute of the day. And the problem is, I would be with them every single minute of the day if I didn't start to put some limits and boundaries on taking care of myself. And so, what I really did is, when I was asked to go and care for these children that I love so much, I included myself in the care plan. I included myself in the care plan. And I got to tell you, it worked out beautifully. So excited about this. And so I was thinking about this daily reader. Y'all know how I love a daily reader. And this is a daily reader from a program called Al Anon. It's called Courage to Change. And if you've never heard of Al Anon, it's a great program. It's a program for people who are impacted by someone else's addiction, but their teachings are so universal. They're usually about serenity and boundaries and balance. So we can all take a lesson from this little pocket sage reader. And the reading from September 17th goes like this. Help me find the balance I need between work, play, loving others, and self-care. And many of us came to this program believing that caring for others meant doing everything for them, anticipating their needs, rescuing them from consequences, putting their comfort before our own. We thought that that was love. But over time, we learned that constantly giving without taking time to restore ourselves only made us irritable, depleted, and resentful. Balance is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of sanity. When I make time for my own meetings, my spiritual life, and the people who nurture me, I'm more patient, more generous, and more loving. When I neglect myself, everyone pays the price. Today, I will remember that self-care and caring for others are not opposites. They are parts of the same whole. I can love others best when I include myself in the circle of care. Isn't that wild? I'll read it again for those of you in the back. Help me find the balance I need between work, play, loving others, and self-care. Many of us came to this program believing that caring for others meant doing everything for them, anticipating their needs, rescuing them from consequences, and putting their comfort before our own. We thought that that was love. But over time, we learned that constantly giving without taking time to restore ourselves only made us irritable, depleted, and resentful. Balance is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of sanity. When I make time for my own meetings, my spiritual life, and the people who nurture me, I'm more patient, more generous, and more loving. When I neglect myself, everyone pays the price. Today, I will remember that self-care and caring for others are not opposites. They are parts of the same whole. I can love others best when I include myself in the circle of care. I mean, I am deceased from that reading. It's like I should tattoo this reading on my eyeballs. And that part, right? Balance is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of sanity. It just like lands in my bones. Because what I used to call caretaking was actually managing my fear. Like I want to prove myself through overdoing instead of trusting that I was enough, that just like my presence and my steadiness was already enough. And so, real caretaking, right? The kind that's healthy and sustainable, and sometimes I think holy. I mean, this is what I think we're here to do is love and be loved, right? But it starts with tending to ourselves. It's not me first, because that's obnoxious caretaking, in my opinion. It's me too. When I fill my own cup, then my giving is coming from overflow, not depletion. Like everyone wins. And so today's word, I'm sure you'll be shocked, is balance. Balance. And balance doesn't mean 50-50. It's not this reciprocal, conditional balance. It's not like a seesaw. It doesn't mean perfection. It just means noticing when you're out of balance. What needs attention? Does your body need attention? Does your heart need attention? Does your spirit need attention? And then attending to that with kindness. Because honestly, balance is a live in practice. Life is a seesaw. It's a dance. It's a conversation, and it's remembering this. Your steadiness is your generosity. One of my teachers, Marsha Lynn, oh no, who said it? Tara Brock. She said, one of my pocket sages, she says, the greatest gift we give is our full presence. And that really does require balance. So here's my question for you today. Where in your life are you overgiving or overdoing in the name of love? And what would it look like to include yourself in that same circle of care? Not later, not tomorrow, but now, but right now. It's a good one, right? So, ascenders, this was a great climb. And remember, our word of the day is balance, not as a burden, but as a blessing. Today, let's pause. Let's ask ourselves, what will bring me back to center? Maybe it's a deep breath. Maybe it's a boundary. Maybe it's a nap. Maybe it's just saying yes to yourself and no to someone else. Let that act of self-care be an act of sanity, not an act of selfishness. And until next time, I'm rooting you on through the chaos and the still. Always, always, always.